This is the 8-9 combo. I am Brett McKay, and I'm joined by my once again beautiful co-host, Harry Jones. The nose job is complete, mate. How are you? Look at that.
How's the birthday boy, Brett, or as our baristas call you,
Yeah.
and Sonny Bill Williams, brah.
Thank you for the Dallas Jackals jersey. I appreciate
Look at
that.
that.
Last
You know,
week.
I was partying really hard this week in Boca Raton and parts unknown in Miami, and I ran into the relatives, a giant wave of relatives of Viv Richards and Lawrence Rowe, and then we were doing like cricket dances at 3 a.m. having a good time, and I got you an invite to play in a Legends West Indies
no,
Legends, and the invitation is well standing. You
no.
versus the Windies pace attack.
I am much more comfortable on slow wickets against middle-aged politicians. Thank you very much. I do not need to be facing West Indies greats. Former Test players are still Test players. I don't need that, mate.
Yeah, and they're about 50 years old, so they can still actually move.
Not going to happen.
So I am in Boca Raton, and here's my lesson for you about cricket. Maybe it's just about life. If you just keep playing a sport and you keep playing it forever and ever and ever, you kind of become nationally ranked, maybe internationally ranked. I mean, like if you're 100 years old and you're running the 100 meters, 18 seconds gets you in top of the rank. So I had a great lesson this weekend, two lessons actually, with Bobby Bernstein, who the head pro at Boca Raton, who coached Jimmy Connors back in the day.
So is this what you're going for now, the Masters circuit?
Yeah, so we qualified for nationals in San Diego, so we're having a good time. But I just wanted one tune-up, and what he said, Bobby said, he said, your backhand, Harry, is a work of art, and he said your forehand is a piece of art. I'll send to myself.
Oh, that's gold. That's gold. We're up to episode 11 of the 8-9 Rugby podcast, all thanks to the Sports Social Podcast Network, and you'll find us on all the pod platforms, Amazon Music and Audible, of course, Spotify and Apple, YouTube, and its musical cousins and offspring and all that, and whatever is left of Google Podcasts now, which is working in some places and not in others, as I understand it. Literally wherever you get your podcasts. So please do like, follow, subscribe, and rate and review, and do share too as well. And yes, you used to hear us on the Raw Rugby podcast for a couple of years. And if you listened to us back then we're really pleased that you found us here on the 8-9. But if you're completely new to the pod, then we say hello, and we hope that you stick around for this new journey of ours into rugby pod world, which we're very much enjoying. Cheers and jeers, mate. Hit me up with a cheers for the week, please.
Oh, the cheers is difficult this week, my friend. It's got a lot of downside. If I praise Caleb Clark, the second coming of Jonah Lomu, then that makes you sad. If I talk about how wonderful and gritty the Ospreys were, then I'm crying inside.
Yeah.
If I talk about monstering the Bulls at Loftus, then Johan Joubert Jordan cries, one of our favorite pod friends. If it's Bristol, then you don't believe me. The stats are ridiculous. 13 tries, 305 passes, only 4 kicks from hand. It was like a league dream. It's like what rugby league wants us to become. At one point, they were getting tired of scoring. I think there was 13 conversions by AJ McGinty. At some point, he just told the ref, "No, it's okay. I don't need to convert this."
He didn't have a kick after half time, I think.
Yeah, exactly. If I talk about the Reds, wonderful 31-0. Let's just be honest. They didn't play that well, actually. They weren't that good. It was I'll lose the ball, you lose the ball, I'll score. And that's how it went for the Highlanders.
It was we'll get into this. It was the highest scoring game I've seen for a long time.
If I talk about Northampton Saints, and that makes you sad too, because your friend Dan McKellar lost there, and Montoya, who's the second coming of James Slipper, Toulon, Toulouse. That gets us back into Leicester. Leicester find Ganuku, who ran wild. So all I can say is I'm going back to schools rugby. My cheers of the week, Pearl Jim. Under the shadow of Pearl Mountain, playing Grey College. Both teams began playing rugby 1885 or something. Tons of future box on both sides. If you want to see who's going to play the 2031 World Cup, watch this match on SS_schools. It's a wonderful app. It's free. You can watch the best players from high school in South Africa. There was some really good play, but I'll give you this taste. And after literally, there were like 17 games between Pearl Jim and Grey College leading up to the first 15s. But here's the 8-9 combos. Pearl Jim, Quinton Potgieter. Number 9, Melt Viljoen. What if you had a name like Melt as a 9? My God.
Can you imagine what a barista would do to that?
You'd call you Mink or something. Grey College, it's Liam Santos, who was a breakdown merchant, and then anchoring the scrum is Philip McLaren, whose dad, Flippy McLaren, we learn on the comms, actually was the presiding minister of the commentator's wedding. I mean, that's the kind of thing you just don't get unless you're in high school's football.
Can I give you a bonus cheers then before you do this for an hour?
One more thing, the score. Okay. The score was 29-27. Pearl Jim is known as having the guts, Jimmy Guts, the gees. They came back, they scored a wonderful try, and then there was a kick to draw the match, hit the posts. Oh, heartbreak for Pearl.
And that's the cheers for the week. Wow.
I'll just say that's rugby. That's the kind of thing like a guy like Sean Maloney would love to commentate.
Oh, you would. Can you imagine that? I'm going to give you a little bonus cheers here and a shout out to Seattle Seahawks and ex-New South Wales country fly half Sam Windsor's mum. Who, after we gave Sam a rap for his work with the Seahawks last week, obviously let Sam know. Sam Windsor sends me a message through the week, which after having a little bit to do with him in the early days of the NRC was pretty cool to reconnect. And he is doing great work with the Seahawks, and we will look to get him on at some point in the next little bit because I'd love to hear about the Australian perspective from Major League Rugby. So we'll do that.
He's a good player.
He's a good guy, a good player, very good guy as well. Jeers, mate. Unfortunately, is our Games of the Week selections, which went south in several ways last weekend. With Brumbies getting thumped in Auckland, Munster upsetting the Bulls at Loftus, Bath winning handsomely in Exeter. Kubota Spears ending the Kobe Steelers semi-final hopes. Even that was one of the few that we got right. So
Sam Windsor's team actually played pretty well.
They did play pretty well. Anyway, we have been looking forward to this week's guest, someone we've spoken to several times over the years, and someone who put their hand up straight away when we decided to go our own way with the 8-9. He joins us next, and he joins us right now. In fact. You know this week's guest as the voice of Australian rugby on Stan Sport and the Nine Network, but in the last few weeks, he's also revealed that as far as commentary puns go, he makes for a pretty good half marathon runner as well. Please welcome to the 8-9 for the first time, Sean Maloney. Hello, mate.
Hang on a second. Don't go throwing me with a bad pun brigade that night. I used one. It was in context when Julian Heaven went over against the Crusaders, and I said a try heaven sent for New South Wales. And that's what it was. That's what it was. Yep. And then bang.
The wormhole.
Turanui goes for it. Then
and a fact check. You did say stop it, guys.
Yes, that's true.
And then I go, Goog, any bad puns to add to the mix? And he goes, no. But then he jumps in with one anyway.
It was so good. Can I make a suggestion for you? Do you want a little one to bank for the next few weeks?
Yeah, hit me.
All right. Do you remember the 1980s Australian band, the Eurogliders? They sang this classic hit, and it just works. Heaven must be there for when he's got the ball over the line for a line-out drive, and then for emphasis you can go, well, he's just got to be there. That's the lyrics of the song. It's perfect.
Has anyone else heard the song?
Everyone has heard the song. Everyone has heard the song. It'll be
revealing a very dark side of Brett McKay's Spotify playlist.
The Eurogliders are not dark, that's for sure.
Hey, I can do puns all night, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that HJ is currently in Trump Town. You're just down the road from Mar-a-Lago, brother.
It's very true.
Yeah, I was on the boats were out yesterday in a big circle, and they're like around a sandbar, and everyone's just waving flags. It looks like they're storming the Bastille, except they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Here's one for you. Who loves a flag wave more, the Fijian Drua fans or Trump supporters? That's one to ponder.
I would pay to see that matchup, actually.
Great question.
So would I. Fellas, thanks for having me back. This is a real treat. As you know, I'm a huge fan of both your work, and through 9 rounds now, Super Rugby Pacific, it's lovely to touch base on the 8-9 podcast. I was going through some of your previous guests from this year. Who's been the headlines so far? I tell you who's got a voice made for podcasts and radio post-career. Nedley Hannigan.
Oh,
So
doesn't he? See, our problem, Shawnee, this year is that we started big. Like, we couldn't go any higher than Sir Bill Beaumont. So,
no, I know.
Yeah, like everyone's a bit of a rung down, but
well, you're feeling a real hole when you got Michael Atkinson on, that's for sure. So
yeah,
we really went pear-shaped that week.
We had to get him out of the way early.
We were just going for looks, the thirst trap.
Wow, that's true. He's a handsome man.
He's a handsome man.
He really is.
How is 2024 ranking for you in pure rugby terms, mate? Because it feels like we've had a really, really interesting season so far in Super Rugby land.
I feel like the game between the Tars and the Crusaders 2 weeks back at the SFS was probably the most exciting, unpredictable, just sheer crazy Super Rugby game I've ever commentated. I mean, it was just wild. So using that as the benchmark, I mean, that's Eclipse now. I've been doing it for 13 years. That's gone to the top with a bullet. So to have that and then just to walk away from the game that night, fellas, and just to think to yourself, if it was like this every week, rugby would just wipe the floor with every other code in the country.
Yeah, true.
If you had that, but then you realise it's a bit of a unicorn game, and then you slip back into the real world where there's some good, some not so bad. But I've just loved that the Aussie sides are having a proper crack now, and that the field has leveled out somewhat.
And so, how much? Absolutely, you're absolutely right there. How much of a difference has that made to Stan's presentation this year, with more Australian wins and with definitely more competitive Trans-Tasman contests?
Oh, it's made it so it makes it easier. It makes your job that much easier. Obviously, when the games are good, you guys will both know this. When the games are good, doing your work sidelines easier, writing up HA is easier for you. Podcasting becomes easier as well. And we've had that benefit this year, and that unpredictability is so much better now. So that when we flick it on and it's an Aussie side against the Kiwi outfit, there is that uncertainty around what's going to happen unless the game is being played at Eden Park. That's when things get a bit skewy.
I love, Harry, that we've had to all of a sudden we're going, when was the last time an Australian team kept a New Zealand team to nil? And so there was this whole social media thing on following on the Queensland Highlanders game, and we worked out it's 20 years. It was 1999 was the last time it happened. But the fact that we're now having to go for the record books to find these things, it's like it was 2013 since the Western Force last beat the Crusaders.
It's a good metric. You're looking for more obscure stats now. It's a good sign. For so long watching from the sidelines and watching Australians digest Super Rugby, it almost had a pathetic air to it of living and dying on each weekend's particular footy outcomes. And the jeopardy was missing, the actual jeopardy of I have no idea what's going to happen. And it's okay if you lose by a few points, as long as it's really in the game. I think people are drawn to that. So Shawnee, you're a rugby lifer. You're never going to lose your love of the game, but your job is to somehow translate that to people who are iffy on the barrier. So you have a game sometimes that just is not panning out. What's interesting is I think you still try to build excitement off of that. And I think you're successful mostly because rugby has a lot of parts in which you can still build jeopardy. Every line out, every scrum, every breakdown. Do you think we do a good enough job on comms and punditry and writing about really just explaining the joy, the majesty, the fun, the craziness of rugby? Or are we too stuck a little bit?
No, I think the thing worth noting there, mate, is that people aren't stupid. So if a game's a blowout, it's a game's a blowout. So if let's use earlier in the year, the Western Force are playing the Hurricanes and they're getting absolutely smoked at home in round one, and I'm trying to talk up the Western Force's chances, and they go, people are dumb, they get tight. So the way that you then spin that, Harry, is you just center the positive energy on not the fact the Force are going to come back in that game, that contest. You just make the celebration of how good the Hurricanes are. So that becomes your pivot point in the game, if that makes sense. Like that Reds Highlanders game on Friday night was low. Like that was a shock.
Yes.
Shithouse game of rugby. It doesn't matter how you cut it. There were errors made that shouldn't have been made. There was one team who defended beautifully, obviously, in the Reds. But outside of that, there were just these short, sharp moments that were really entertaining, really engaging. And apart from that, it was slow. There was no atmosphere in the ground. The highlight was Swaney getting hammered in the stands. I mean, our dear friend, you both know
it was great.
With the sweaty pits.
And happy birthday to you, Swaney, as well. It was birthday week last week. It was me, and there was Swaney, and it was Justin Harrison, and yeah. We've lost you, mate. What have you done?
Oh, no audio.
No, there you go.
Tell again from Swaney, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So Swaney's the big night out. That's all great, and the rest of it. But then there are these games where they're not super, but then you have to find a way to try and keep people interested. Sever Reece the other night, the Crusaders are playing terribly, but he becomes the all-time try scorer for the Crusaders. That's the moment you go hard on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been that year. You talk about jeopardy, Harry, and the fact that our tipping this year has been horrendous is telling you something. Like it has been genuinely hard to tip games this year, and that's the best outcome of a close competition, because if it becomes predictable, then you just sort of meander your way through. But this year, it's been anything but that.
And there is a certain morbid curiosity about the Crusaders, right? Like overarching this whole season is how is this happening?
Yeah. It's funny. So I saw you guys, Shawnee, on Between Two Posts this week, and you're going, "Are we putting a line through the Crusaders?" And mathematically, you're all going, "Well, yeah, of course we are." But then we're all going, "Yeah, but it's the Crusaders," and so no one's game to put the line through them just yet, even though they should be done. They should be done, but they just might not be.
They just, I mean, you don't know, do you? Like, they could easily come out and go berserk on the Rebels this week, and they've got back-to-back games against the Aussie sides, and they've got the Blues in there somewhere. Who knows? What's been the morbid fascination is a great way of putting it, Harry. And it's also these little drip feed tease moments that they give you where, bang, they're back to life. Like, there'll be a run of phases in a game, and I'm like, yeah, this, because, like the Crusaders at their best, it's just so pure, the pace and they don't know what's going on. It's just gorgeous to watch when they're firing, and they've been firing for, as long as they have been. So then you get these little false moments the other night. I'm like, shit, yeah, here we go. They're starting to hammer it, and they're clicking. And then someone will just drop the ball cold with no one around.
Yeah. It's like, oh, no, that's right. No, they're terrible.
Yeah, their defense is not bad, actually. They're the third least conceded tries. It's they cannot score right now. Well, I don't know if there's any other analog in top sports of a perennial champion, being that good, and then in one moment it falls apart. I mean, usually it's a gradual decline, or you can point your finger at something. But this one is really crazy to watch.
They don't get the wooden spoon, do they? Brett, do they get the wooden spoon? They can't, can they? They could they?
No, that could be exciting. That could be exciting too. What's their final match?
Great question. Questions with there's one more.
That would be interesting to see if it's like Waratahs fighting
they have
the Crusaders.
Got, their last 6 games are Rebels, Reds, Highlanders, Brumbies, Blues, Moana.
Ooh, interesting. That could be the wooden spoon match.
You know who potentially saves them? It could be the Highlanders.
They're pretty poor right now.
Yeah, they were. They weren't great the other night.
No. Hey, Shawnee,
bit going on, fellas. Bit going on through 9 rounds.
Shawnee, how do you guys decide what to wear for your presentations? I'm really confused. Sometimes it's the golf shirts.
Wait, before we get to there, let's actually step back a bit here. How are you going, mate? Having to actually wear proper clothes to the rugby now. You can't just rock up in shorts and t-shirts and a thong and thongs, not a thong,
and the thong
in the commentary box.
All
of a sudden you are on, mate.
Do you wear a thong? Is that real stuff? Inside information?
Only for test matches, only for the big ones.
So sometimes I see you in the matching golf shirts or the corporate wear, and then sometimes I think this week you rocked up in let's go get go to school or something. You had school clothes on. and Timmy Horan had like a weird ill-fitting sweater polo that was kind of man-boobing him a little bit, moving him.
Look, I tell you what, I don't know how much of this I can take you behind the curtain and some of the wardrobe things that have happened in my time at Stan and 9, but I think now we're in a spot that I like, that everyone gets to sort of forge a little bit of their own personality in terms of what they wear on air, which is what they do in the NFL, as you guys would know, on the Monday Night Football over there. People wear what they want to wear, and it all sort of comes together. So that's, I mean, it's a chat for another day. What's happened on the wardrobe front? I don't want to go into it.
We'll say
I don't want to go into it.
For a
but
beer
hey,
at the
if you've got any suggestions that you want to see sported, I'm happy to take them on board, big guy.
Well, anytime it pans to inside the box, I really like that moment because you always seem really comfortable and you're all over the place. Yeah, you're gesticulating. You're basically like rocking and mauling poor Timmy, and then Timmy's in between like a tiny hooker in between two giant props. It's good fun.
But the thing is, I mean, the way that, and there's a reason for that. So I think I've touched on this with you guys before when I was working initially with my voice coaches going way, way back, the great Donnie Woodburn, who had suggested that we all communicate best when we're as comfortable as we can be. So the place that you'll communicate best most likely is at home, in your lounge room or your dining room with your family, with loved ones. You probably aren't wearing shoes, you're comfortable, and that's when you're most expressive, and that's when you find your best voice and the rest of it, because that's where most battles and, you know, most love is shared and the rest of it. So I've taken that on board and run with it for a number of years, and it seems to work, because if I'm comfortable like that, chances are you're at home, you're comfortable watching on the TV with family and friends and the rest of it. So there is a reason behind that to try and make it feel like it's your space.
Yeah.
Breaking news: Sean Maloney commentates barefoot. That's what I got out of that.
Oh, I knew that. I absolutely knew that. Absolutely knew that. I think it's been an interesting insight. We sort of get a little peek into the commentary box, and I think mostly it's gone beautifully this year, except the night that we could see Justin Harrison's pad thai.
normally like, so Morgs hates it. He won't mind me saying, but he hates the Combox cam. He really doesn't like it, because normally he has plates of party pies, you know, covering. He hates it.
This is the beauty of
radio. I like it. I like
Yeah.
like that you get to see sort of what we do. Obviously, they do it on Fox with the cricket. A lot of those other games where there are long pauses between key moments and you can cut to it. We're on camera for maybe 5-6 seconds top.
Yeah.
Excuse me, to go. It's an establishing shot to see who's talking, and it's back to live pictures. I really enjoy it. I like it. I think it's a good innovation from the Boston.
How much notice do you get that it's coming? Not enough is the answer.
So I can button onto the producer to Ellie or Swain and say, let's get to it now, and director Hamish will do it. Or other times there'll be a little bit of warning, and they'll button onto the three of us and say, we're going to come to you in a few seconds. But
you're on in 5.
It's nice to keep on the toes. Yeah. Put the pies away.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know it's going to happen, but where in the 80 minutes is it going to happen?
It's a drinking game. We're all waiting for it. And Harrison, does he practice the growl all the time? Is it kind of like, do you have to set your microphone especially for that? It's even on mundane moments, like throw to the front. I'm like, why are you growling on that?
That's how Wiltshire speaks in general. Like that's honestly like when I get back to, you know, sort of saying how we'd all speak at home with loved ones and friends, the rest of it. That's how
I'm imagining that.
To me, that's how he'll speak to me about the dumplings he's going to order from Hoochie Mama down in Melbourne.
Do that. Give us that, please.
He's like, mate,
barbecue pork buns,
chicken and prawn dumplings with this numbing sauce, mate. And I'm like, let's go. We're gonna I love him. I love him. But he's got that gravelly, deep voice, and it just comes with no effort. Hey, Shane, that's how he speaks in general terms as well. He's not putting that on. That's just the big guy's his tone, and I love him.
He's got the perfect mix of not unlike us, Harry. He's got the perfect mix of mostly nonsense but occasional insight, which is just brilliant. And you can't ask much more than that.
Yeah, it's true. You know, Shawnee, we were both, Brett and I both acted in the same play, but it was like continents apart, years apart. He was the Tin Man, and I was the Scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz. Like, he did not have a heart, and I did not have a brain. and it carries on. It's a New South Wales, Queensland problem.
No further questions, Your Honour. I reckon there's a good break right there. That's a good break. Let's get back into this. How, Shawnee, does Super Rugby Pacific play out from here? What's your expectations over these last 6 weeks home?
I just hope we get I just am hoping beyond hope that we can squeeze 2 inside that top 4. I mean, that'd be something else, because as you guys know, like, if you don't, I mean, historically speaking, you don't finish top 2, you're dead in Super Rugby, and it was more pronounced back when we had the South African teams and everyone else. But I just love to see 2 squeezed in there. The Brumbies obviously got that reality check on the weekend. The Reds got the reality check the week before from Moana. Yeah. So hopefully those are out of the way and they can just steamroll through towards the back end of the year, and then maybe we get.
Oh, has he got it gone again?
Audio out.
Oh, no, lost your mic again, mate. Reality checks were sort of the name of the game in the last few weeks, but it would be great, Sean, if we can squeeze 4 in.
Oh, it'd be huge. Like, can you imagine if we can have guys to have a shot at the back end of the year? I mean, I dream of a time when we can get guys through to the final dance. How long has it been since we've had a runner in the finals in, like, the last game of the season? 14?
Brumbies played in the final in, when was that, 2013? Oh, I don't know. Surely we've had one since 2014. Surely we've had one since 2014.
Oh, I don't think it is.
Oh, no, I think Brumbies got to the semis, but did not get to the final. You're right.
Yeah, they got popped by the Blues.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I think it
is. That's the major point, isn't it? Like this year with Crusaders and Highlanders possibly missing out, and Moana, you have the actual room for 4 teams to be better than the Highlanders, and that's interesting. That just makes the comp interesting.
What's interesting this year is that the bottom 4 currently is 2 New Zealand teams and 2 Australian teams. It's not just the Islander team making up the numbers. There's genuine competition there, and that's what's made the jeopardy part of it interesting. Should we look at some runs home then, because maybe that's where we can sort of form opinions. So the Brumbies sitting 3rd have got the Hurricanes this weekend, then the Drua, Waratahs, Crusaders, Rebels, Force. That's actually not too bad. The Rebels have Crusaders, Blues, Reds, Chiefs, Brumbies, Drua. The Reds, that's not too bad either. The Reds have the Blues, Crusaders, Rebels, Drua, Force, Waratahs. So again, they could push on that. The Waratahs have got Chiefs, Hurricanes, Brumbies, Force, Moana, Reds to finish. The Force have got Highlanders, Chiefs, Drua, Waratahs, Reds, Brumbies. So they're not the worst runs home, Sean.
I reckon Brumbies have got the best run there. I can see them tripping up the Hurricanes in a bounce back game this weekend, afternoon footy down in Canberra. So I could see that. I think the Brumbies got the best run home. So
they could. They probably need really to win. They probably need to win 5 of their last 6 to be a chance of finishing top 2. But they're actually a chance of winning all 6.
Yeah, it just feels like who's available will be the end. Like, this is a long comp. Absolutely. This is where depth comes in. So I would say that'll matter for the Rebels, especially the Rebels. Like, if you lose 2 or 3 guys there, could be rough for them.
So I just wanted to say it's a half marathon, not a sprint. But you're right. You're right. It's the sorry, mate. It's the depth at this time of year, injuries at this time of year, and that's why for the Force it's so interesting that they get Isaac Rodder back, as well as a few guys arriving. But Isaac Rodder comes back, and that makes a big difference. The Brumbies could potentially have Alan Alatoa in the next 2 weeks. Andy Muirhead could be back in the next 2 weeks. Len Ikitau could be back maybe the week after that. So, that starts making a difference. The Rebels have got a few to come back. Shawnee, remind me there. Oh, Kellaway's
so
back,
Robbie
isn't he?
Liotta can come back.
Brad Wilkin, we haven't seen much of.
Brad Wilkin gives some great work over the ball. Jimmy or Bobby Tuttle can go back in. Josh Can go back in. So yeah, they've got a few that can slip back into that match day squad who'll make a big difference.
Obviously, Queensland get McDermott and McWright back in.
And Seru Uru.
A couple of weeks, less tackle school. McWright will come back a week early with tackle school as well. So, you know, they're in the right place, aren't they? Particularly those three, the Brumbies, Rebels, Reds, are in the right place. They're in the frame, and it's just a matter of how they go on with it from there. So, what do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know, but listing all these names makes you remember how Shawnee commentates. He uses names as the drama, and there's no one on TV that does a better job with Pacifica names than Shawnee. And so you embrace the difficulty. I always get a feeling that the harder the name, that's when you get excited. Like you just draw it out. Like, let's go to every single apostrophe.
You gotta, don't you? Yeah. You just have to. I've become very fond of Vicky Neekins. That's a beauty.
I was just going to say there is something very satisfying about nailing Ratamaitavuki Neepkins. They're really
I love Tavatanawai. That's considerably much easier than Ratamaitavuki Neepkins.
Look at that! Look, he's showing off now.
Showing off now, yeah.
I love him, and I love it's not even a challenge that it presents because it's something you love to do. Like you love nailing it and getting it right. And hitting those hard bounds. I think they call it a guttural stop. The little apostrophe is actually called a guttural stop. So each and every one of those things. Even Big Jeffrey used to be Tumunga Allen. Yeah, To'omanga Allen. You guys have had Matty To'omua on your show already this year. Just all those. I love it. I just love embracing it, and I love by their families and friends.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, Harry. And once you know how the syllables and the sounds work, it's actually you come to a new name and you go, all right, how are we going to do this? Ratamaitavuki Neepkins. There you go, easy. You just work your way through it.
Yeah. I just imagine Shawnee getting ready in the morning, brushing his teeth and getting his hair done, and then he's like repeats those syllables, just gets ready for the morning, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
do you know what trips you up? Do you know what properly trips you up? It's when you go back to like just the straight up and down ones, like instead of like we would pronounce it Hotham, but it's Hotham, the Crusaders, the young scrum half. So you end up getting tripped up on the gimme ones rather than the harder ones.
McKay, you know.
Exactly right. Right.
You got it.
Yeah. It certainly makes it more enjoyable, mate, when you're nailing it, when the rugby's good. Feels like you're calling it well this year.
Do you know what? I haven't done a whole lot. That's a really good question. I haven't done a whole lot different this year than last, but you obviously look to refine, you look to get better, you look to expand on your vocabulary. You might take a few things for a walk here and there. Like everything's done with an intention. This is something to share with you guys because I don't know how this has come to be, but there seems to be more of a light shone on the stand commentary that has been in years past in the online space, right? So there's been a lot more glare coming. Let's put it that way. And it could easily get you down. It could easily get you down. But the reality of it is, this is a subjective thing that we all do. Watching the game is subjective. How you write, how you both present, it's entirely subjective.
Of course.
But the important thing is to remember, and this only comes through the benefit of timing and experience, is that it's all done intentionally. It's not just haphazard, throw shit around and see where it lands sort of stuff. Everything's done purpose. And I'm really intent on outcome-focused communication. So everything I do in a call is done with an intention, whether it be to highlight a player in terms of, like, there'll be certain players that I'll constantly hammer home first name and last because I want them to grow an identity and I want their name to be remembered.
Right.
So that when we're talking about stars of the future coming through, if I keep going bang, if I keep drilling it into your head, I'm doing that for a reason. I'm doing that for a reason. If I'm calling a try, and we touched on it before we even hit record, Harry, where I'm repeating the surname in the run into. So the other night with Darby Lancaster, it was his first or second. Might have been that second try where he's towed it ahead and he's chased it down. So it's Darby Lancaster. So I'll set up as that. So it's first and last name.
Yeah.
But then it's Darby. And I'm raising my voice up to match him running in for the try. And
then
I come in with the explanation of what's happened. So knowing that now, so you guys know now, and the 8-9 Combo podcast listeners know there's an intent behind everything. It's all done with an outcome in mind. Understand that jump objective space, that it's been done for a reason. You might not like it. That's fine. That's no drama. It doesn't make me or my colleagues shit callers because you don't like it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a subjective world we live in.
Yeah.
There are players that are the three of us can watch a game and we'll all have three different players potentially who we think's the man of the match. Three different players. We see it through a different lens. Doesn't make you right, doesn't make me right, because it's a subjective space that we're in. It doesn't make the person right. That makes sense.
Which is why I love the end of Between Two Posts, and you go around giving you 3-2-1s. And I don't know how much of you've seen of this, Harry, but there'll be a different 3-2-1, and occasionally there's a bit of alignment. And but the different ones, you go, oh, that's an interesting one. Oh, that's an interesting one. And you go, how's he not seen that? How's he? And you've got three different perspectives on 3-2-1s across 5 teams and 6 games for a week. And you go, it's actually going to be pretty rare that there is an alignment, if we're honest. So,
the man of the match is always Peter Steph Toy. But I was able, Brett, to watch Stan Sports guys in Saint Etienne in that ill-fated World Cup on the setup, and it's interesting because everyone is in their own space. Like Shawnee really is kind of game face on, ready to go, and then you have Mertens walking in 1 second before he's on and like kicking a chair and like, hey everyone, fuck you, here I am. And then Atco's working in the crowd, he's making friends with the bartender, he's signing autographs, and Sonny Bill Williams is in his own space, he's doing like yoga and stuff. So it's interesting.
It's why one of the very, very early on in my very rookie days, and it meant the world to me at the time. Rod Kafer walked past me out at Canberra Stadium and he just went, have a good call, mate. And that's stuck with me every game I go out there. It's why I tap on your glass, mate, before I go downstairs and just do the same thing. It just means the world when your colleagues have got your back like that. So it's really cool. It's really. Who's a player, mate, that you've enjoyed calling this year, who's really lived up to what you were expecting?
Oh, I've mentioned this a couple of times on our Between Two Posts podcast. How much we love when you sort of highlight a player that you recognise is going to have a really decent future, and probably the one that jumps out this year, because I even wrote it up in our pre-season column that I did, was I circled Darby Lancaster as a kid to watch, right. And then you feel this attachment to them. I don't know if you guys have the same thing where you spot one that you reckon is going to be a winner. It's like just back the dirt, finding a little gem and going, I've got one here. And then when they deliver, you feel a connection to their success.
You do.
But I've loved seeing him, because he's a great kid too, and he's set for a big future. He may be, maybe not. I don't know. I don't care. But to see him realise a dream that he's hit is phenomenal. Like, I'm so happy for him because he's a good kid. He can obviously play football fairly well also. The other one that, this is just a totally random one, how much of a tricky year they've had, but Julian Heaven at the Waratahs, my God, it's like,
must be there.
Like,
he just has to be there.
Like,
it was a stairway question.
It was a stairway question. No stairway. Denied. You Lenswell fans will know that one. He came out of nowhere. He had that game down in Canberra against the Brumbies where they got pants, but he was awesome, and he's been really fun to call. I'm just trying to think of the other sort of come through this year. Can you guys help me out with some of the other rookies that have sort of bounced through? I love Liner. I tell you what, I love.
The Brumbies 8, the good-looking kid at number 8,
Charlie Cale.
Yeah.
He's another one. He's another one that we saw glimpses of last year. So he's obviously not a rookie year, but my God, can he play? I mean, Liner. Just seeing more and more of Liner's cool too.
Everyone in Canberra certainly wondered about. Right, Pete Samu heads to France now. Who's going to play 8 this year, or who's going to play 6 if Valentine? Charlie Cale rocks out down that same channel. He's tucked in. He's running the same lines. It's just Pete Samu in a different body.
You get the feeling that Charlie doesn't really know how good he is yet. I don't think he fully appreciates how big he is. Ball. I think he can run into contact more.
Which is interesting because the biggest criticism of not criticism, but the biggest advice, the free advice that's handed out to him is, it'd be good if he had 5 more kilos. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't need it.
I'm always trying to follow. I'm trying to follow that advice. Shawnee and I always say that.
Halsey and Morgs both say no to the 5 kilos. Just let him do what he's doing now with the frame he's got. And if he gets bigger, he gets bigger. If not, don't worry about it. Because as you say, Harry, he knocks blokes knowing he's knocking them over. He leaves blokes in the back door all the time.
Exactly. And look, he will he's early 20s. He will grow into the position as well. So it's been good, mate. I've got one question for you before we let you go, and it's a hard hitting one that I've been wanting to ask you for probably 9 weeks. How much longer do you think you can get away with unplugged mics on the desk between 2 posts?
Only a TV nerd, only a journalist with many years in the game, only a desperado would notice that, and I cannot believe you've outed us.
I'm sorry, mate. It was the first thing I saw round 1. It's like, well, I can see that's not plugged in.
Well, maybe they're in this day and age. Maybe they're just wireless. You didn't just think about that. I do. You're not using wireless mics.
That is ridiculous, Brett. That's OCD from ACT right there.
I'm sorry.
How do you know those? How do you see those things?
When you can see sockets that have got no plugs, it kind of stands out. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I've lifted the lid on TV Magic, but
Well, the budget for the cords went on the wardrobe, so that's what's happened there.
Oh, fantastic.
Well played.
Fantastic, mate. It's been great to have you on. It's been a lot of fun. We knew it would be.
It always does. Don't you find the time just goes too fast?
Oh,
the time just goes too fast.
It does.
It's actually true. Guys, I don't know if you guys have watched me Chasing the Sun too, but there's this really interesting moment. We're all obsessed with speeding up the game and more stuff. Franz Malherbe, in his dry way, is talking about the final, and he said, I looked at the clock at 20 minutes, and I thought it had only been 5 or 10. It's interesting how subjectivity, as Sean just said, like how you experience something. And I'm totally with you, Shawnee. Every time we're on, it just seems like we're just 3 or 4 minutes in, and then Brett's like, okay, time to go.
Equally though, we've all been to games where we've looked at the clock and we've gone, oh god, there's 35 minutes to go on this.
That Reds Highlander game was a little bit like that.
The opposite is also true. No, mate, look, thanks so much for
anyway. Sorry, pleasure to be with you both. Love your work, and great to see the pod up and running under your own names as well.
Well, and thank you. When we mentioned it to you, you said from the outset, whenever you want, ready when you need. So we thank you, mate. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, boys.
This is the 8-9 Combo Rugby Podcast with Brett McKay and Harry Jones. And, mate, so good to catch up with Sean Maloney again. That was so good.
Shorty's such a good guy. On, off, he's the same kind of fella.
Yeah, I'm laughing because we've just had basically 20 minutes between when we finished up with him and when we resumed this. And it's been a riot. So, yeah, good fun. Yeah. Great to catch up with him.
Yeah, his off the record stuff is really good, but sorry, it's off the record.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull up any more secrets that I have tonight. Something that we are doing something that we're doing this year is to dedicate this little segment each week to the various competitions around the world, and we hit the major talking points. We go through them. Super Rugby Pacific, I think we've sort of touched on most of them. The Hurricanes made 10 changes to their starting side and still ran away 5 tries to 2 winners under lights against the Fijian Drua in Suva. And actually, that's a point. I reckon I reckon 10 other teams have seen that and went, oh, if we're going to play the Drua in Fiji, we need to play them under lights.
Exactly. Time of the day and place.
Take the humidity out of the equation completely. So that made a great point. The Blues put up an absolute blue wall against the Brumbies. They're ending 7 tries themselves. They've conceded 13 tries in 8 games now. We talked before about going to the record books now. I can't recall a team conceding so few tries this far into the season. Like it's mad.
It is impressive. I was also impressed, however, at how well they could build an attack and stay almost like a holding midfielder in soccer, how they would build a shape. And then inside that, they wouldn't mind if they went back a couple steps. They didn't panic and do a miracle grubber. They just kept going, and they would get that go forward. And the the big carriers that they have, unbelievable. Just to face those 3 guys and try to tackle them for 40 minutes, forget about it.
I don't think we've ever said this about the Blues, or certainly not for a long time, but they are showing patience in attack. And that is, I mean, I can't even believe I said those words about the Blues. And it's
easy to be patient when you got Papa Lee, Ione, and Satutu running at you. You can just have ball presentment forever. There's never any trouble with sending cleaners.
The table's interesting. So Hurricanes 37, the Blues 32, Brumbies 27, the Rebels 24 is the top 4, and then you've got the Chiefs 23 and the Reds 22, and then there's a gap to the Fijian and Drua in 7th on 13 points. So it's going to get interesting in the race for the top 4, but it's going to get interesting in the race for 7th and 8th too, because that's already a 5-way battle. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll be back to discuss round 10 of Super Rugby Pacific in Games of the Week later this week. In the ERC this week, mate, round 14, the Lions thumped Leinster 44-12 at Ellis Park. Munster shocked the Bulls 27-22 at Loftus. Ospreys upset the Stormers 27-21 in Cape Town. 3 points now separates 5th and 11th with 4.4 rounds to play. That's hiding up as well now.
Yeah, true. And there was a classic red card there for Johan Goosen at Loftus. No debate, no complaint by Bulls fans. It should be noted. But it was actually one of those situations where you actually felt sorry for the guy. You knew exactly what he was doing, putting pressure on. And then he's running through a play and suddenly someone ducks into him. But I will say, I think that message is getting through to the players. You can just see slowly but surely people are actually understanding that that's a thing that could lose a match, and that probably lost the Bulls the match when they lost their field general.
It's only taken how many years though? It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, but I think it's actually coming through, and the teams. You look at there's an excellent series of spreadsheets, and you look at some of the correlation there. I'm not saying causation, but cards. I mean, that'll really hold you back. You could just look at the Fijian Drua and say, you probably would be challenging for the top of the bloody table if you could just stop hitting people's heads.
Oh, you're just going to make me now look up a tweet live, and this is going to take way too long, I'm sure. But I saw a great tweet on the weekend about the Crusaders that said, and it was a series of numbers that I genuinely couldn't believe that they were talking about the Crusaders. Here it is. I've managed to find it. Crusaders in Super Rugby. This was Hugh Griffin Rugby Stat plus Cat. Crusaders in Super Rugby Pacific this year have the fewest wins, the most yellow cards, the worst line-out percentage, the second fewest offloads, the second fewest carries, the second fewest meters, third fewest tries scored, third fewest defenders beaten, fourth fewest clean breaks.
That's good.
The question is just ask, is the dynasty over? And when you see it like that, you just go, well, they're done. But again,
that's very good. Hugh Griffin actually is an honest stat guy, and he actually does a really good interpolation of stats. And so he puts it inside a capsule you can deal with instead of just spitting out a million numbers. It's really good.
Subtracting out numbers, which is why I like those spreadsheets, because you can just put it there and make your own conclusions. The Premiership, Northampton belted Leicester 40 points to 17. Bath toppled Exeter 26-14 at Exeter to move second. Bristol ran up a cricket score over Newcastle, 85-14, as we mentioned at the top. That pushed them up to fourth, which was then also helped by Sale upsetting Harlequins 37-31. So, again, we've talked about mid-table groupings. Bath are on 49 in second. Saracens are 47 on third. Bristol 45 in fourth. Then you've got Harlequins in 44, Sale on 42, Exeter 40, Leicester 39. So there's not much between that group of five, which is interesting. In France, a 74th minute try was enough for Castres to beat La Rochelle 25-24 at home. Toulon moved into the top four with a 20 points to 19 win over Toulouse in the Battle of the Twos. Though Toulouse scored in the last 5 minutes to make that score look a bit closer than it was. I didn't actually see that game. What was it? Nah, or was it okay?
It was a good match. There was no Dupont for the Dupont guys who want to slather and always talk about him all the time. But there's plenty of stars on the field. I would say it was a really rugged kind of test quality match.
It was a French game.
Yeah.
No? Yeah, fair. In Japan, the defending champions, the Kubota Spears, when they knew they could make the finals, but they then went about wrecking the finals chances of the Kobelco Kobe Steelers and won 39-29 up in the Sapporo Dome. That then locked up the top four with 2 rounds to play. So Saitama Panasonic Wild Knights, Toshiba Brave Lupus, Suntory Sun Goliath Cannon Eagles already locked in 2 rounds to play. Which... yeah,
I'm actually watching more of the Japanese games right now. I'm also really enjoying how low key the players are when they play in Japan. So you have the interesting side of the Barrett brothers going to have a braai with Peter Steph Totoy, and it's just funny.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny. And in the MLR to round out round 8, it was Seattle surprised New England 29-21 in the East-West Conference leaders clash in Quincy, Massachusetts. The Miami Sharks had their second win of the season. They topped the NOLA Gold, who were third in the Eastern Conference. It was at 42-27 in New Orleans. And a 76-minute penalty goal from fly half Joel Hodgson handed the Utah Warriors, who are fifth in the Western Conference, a shock 33-32 win over the San Diego, who are third in the West. That was the Legion's first loss at home this year.
Yeah, MLR is actually picking some traction up in popular culture. There's a few rappers, there's some singers, there's some people getting into it. I think, it's doing its job kind of slowly but steadily. And one thing I will say about MLR is they don't let any clubs run a negative balance sheet for any length of time at all. They're not going to run into this Wasps London Irish thing. It's let's get it nipped in the bud.
Yeah. Fair. No, all makes perfect sense. Any truth in the rumor that there's a possible name change coming and that the Sabercats are going to be referred to forever as the goddamn Houston Sabercats? Is that holding water?
Well, Houston is in the Bible Belt. I'm not sure it's really the buckle of the Bible Belt, but there might be some tender feelings around that. It might be GD.
Right, well, fair enough. We'll keep working on that. But don't miss our end of week show, Games of the Week, where we go through the weekend's games in the comps all around the rugby world and pull out the ones that we think you should be watching. And it is just another reason for you to like, follow, subscribe, and make sure that you catch that one as soon as it drops. Break. Some news of the last 7 days or so to round up episode 11, mate. News last week that happened as I was editing episode 10 with Simon Strawn. Wallabies and Reds duo Tate McDermott, Fraser McWright both copped 3 weeks for their red cards against Moana Pacifica in round 8. Geordie Barrett re-signed with New Zealand Rugby through to 2028, but that also allowed for a season sabbatical during 2025. And the big ticket item there is the announcement that he'll join Irish powerhouse Leinster in December this year for 6 months. You're laughing.
Because Leinster just needed some. We just need some help in our back line.
We're a bit light in our midfield. Who can we get? Is there a promising 12 somewhere who's not getting a game? I know, Geordie bloody Barrett. Yeah.
Can we just have 1,000 international caps on our club team, please?
It's a good point. Fiji confirmed Mick Byrne as their new head coach, which has ended a lengthy selection process to find Simon Rawalului's successor. Japan League One side Toyota for Blitz confirmed that Ian Foster will join them, as we had mentioned last week, but also they've signed Sydney Roosters winger Joey Manu from the NRL. Hurricanes assistant coach and former fly half Tyler Blyndale has agreed to join Leinster's coaching staff for next season. Played for Munster when he left the Hurricanes. He linked back up the Hurricanes as an assistant coach after he come back. He was with Tonga at the World Cup, and as our mate Jeff Parks said in our chat group over the weekend, still looks 17. It's not
who's Leinster going to sign next? Sir Bill Beaumont as an advisor?
Could well be. Wales' most capped hooker and oldest captain Ken Owens announced his retirement, aged 37. Won 4 Six Nations titles, a couple of Grand Slams in that, 3 World Cups, won a league title with Scarlets, but hasn't played in a bit over a year now with a back injury. And 91 caps for Wales, 5 tests for the British and Irish Lions on 2 tours as well. So he really did everything, got everything out of his aging body, which is probably relieved already that there will be no more of it.
Love that guy. He's every man. You could actually see him out there thinking, "You're in grave danger, man. Why are you not running off?" And he just kept going.
I wonder how many inches he has finished than he started. How many scrums must he be back into? Yeah, but mate, that's us done. That's full time on episode 11 of the 8-9 combo. Thanks to all of you out there in Rugby Pod World who have found us. Check the show notes for the links to the 8-9 combo on Twitter, on Insta, on YouTube as well, where you can find video versions of the podcast every week. And you might have noticed over the weekend as well, we've thrown up a bit of bonus content, some of our favourite interviews over the last couple of years as well, from when we were, at the helm of that other podcast that we've mentioned from time to time. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, and interact with the pod directly. We'd love to hear from you, but also rate and share. We are starting from scratch, so any previous ratings and reviews that you might have left obviously haven't followed over, so please go back to your pod platform and do that again. There's Q&As built into every episode on Spotify. I think we're up to 60 or 70 5-star reviews across Spotify and Apple so far as well, and it's going on nicely. Hello to our listeners in Canada, mate. I didn't tell you about this. We hit number 1 in Canada over the weekend, just randomly. Suddenly we're number 1.
Canada. A beautiful anthem, by the way. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it's haunting even. We remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. You find Harry's written musings on the Raw every couple of weeks. You find my new weekly Australian columns on Rugby Pass as well. And I think, mate, that is it. Keep an ear out. If you're listening to us on Amazon Music, keep an ear out for our promo that's currently running that people have tell us it's here. I have to admit I'm not listening to Amazon Music very much, but I'm told it's happening.
Things are picking up steam, man. Breweries the world over are seeking out our patronage and sponsorship.
Yes, and we look forward to that coming through, please, if you don't mind. But this is the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears in a few days' time with Games of the Week.
Come play with us.
Whoa.
Explosive ending.